In the summer of 1992, two young brothers went to bed in their shared room. By morning, only one was still there. No broken windows, no signs of forced entry, no sounds in the night. Just one empty bed, and a brother who swore he never heard a thing. Now, over 30 years later, a letter arrives in the mail, and the message is clear. He never left the room. Before you press play, hit subscribe to follow every chilling detail of the case that turned one man's childhood into a lifelong nightmare. 1992. Harrisonville, Indiana. The house was quiet. A soft hum from the box fan in the hallway was the only sound breaking the stillness of the night, its blades rotating with a mechanical stutter. Click, click, whir. Click, click, whir. It was the kind of late summer night when the air turned heavy and sweet, thick with honeysuckle and the promise of a storm that never came. Ryan Carter, age 10, lay sprawled across his Star Wars bedsheet, face turned to the window, one hand tucked beneath his cheek. Beside him, in the second twin bed across the room, his little brother Jamie slept soundly, or so everyone thought. A glow-in-the-dark moon hung on the ceiling above them, still faintly visible from the night before. Beneath it, comic books were scattered across the floor, a pair of mismatched socks crumpled at the foot of Jamie's bed. A stuffed bear, the one their mother insisted Jamie couldn't sleep without, sat propped against the headboard, its glass eyes staring into the dark. It was just past 2 a.m. when the silence broke. The fan hiccuped once, whir, clunk, then steadied again. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard creaked. Maybe the kitchen settling, maybe nothing, maybe something. Ryan didn't stir. He wouldn't remember the creak. He wouldn't remember the stillness that followed. He wouldn't remember the faint shift of weight in the room. He would only remember waking up to sunlight and silence. By 7:04 a.m., the room looked exactly as it always had. Posters on the wall, crayon marks on the baseboards, a pair of tennis shoes left by the closet door. But the left bed was empty. Jamie Carter, age 8, was gone. No footprints in the backyard, no forced entry, no signs of a struggle. The window was locked from the inside. When the police came, they asked Ryan everything. Did you hear anyone come in? Did Jamie say anything strange before bed? Did he ever talk about running away? He shook his head to all of it. The last thing he remembered, he told them, was Jamie brushing his teeth and complaining that the toothpaste tasted like minty bugs. Then lights out. Then nothing. The town searched. The woods were canvassed. Helicopters flew overhead. Flyers were posted in storefront windows and school gymnasiums. But Jamie Carter had vanished, and Ryan Carter was the boy who'd slept through it. 33 years later, that same boy, now a man, sits in a quiet office above a sleep clinic in downtown Indianapolis. He studies other people's dreams for a living, monitors brainwaves, measures patterns, tracks what happens when the mind drifts into that vulnerable place between awareness and forgetting. And on a Wednesday morning in April, he opens a letter postmarked from his childhood town. No return address, no signature. Just one sentence written in crooked handwriting. He never left the room. And beneath it, taped to the bottom of the page, a small brass key. Indianapolis, Indiana. Present day. The letter sat on the corner of Ryan Carter's desk like it had been waiting years to arrive. He hadn't opened it right away. It had come in a plain envelope, aged, yellowed, and stiff. No name, no return address. Just his office location handwritten in faint pencil, the zip code smudged, like someone had written it with shaking hands or dirty fingers. The postmark read Harrisonville, Indiana, stamped 2 days prior. He'd nearly tossed it in the recycling bin with the rest of the junk mail. But something about it, maybe the way his name looked too familiar on the front, stopped him. Now, the paper inside sat unfolded beside his coffee. the single sentence echoing in his head like a whisper he couldn't unhear. He never left the room. Next to it, the small brass key gleamed in the morning light. Ryan hadn't touched it since pulling it from the envelope. It was old, the kind that didn't belong to any modern lock. Rounded head, single tooth, worn smooth along the edges. He recognized it immediately. It wasn't a house key, not to any house. It was a wardrobe key, the kind that fit into the old wooden dresser that used to sit at the foot of his childhood bedroom. The same dresser Jamie had once hidden inside during hide-and-seek, laughing so hard Ryan could hear his breath through the slats. That dresser hadn't been in the house for decades. Their parents had sold it at a yard sale sometime after the divorce. Ryan hadn't thought about it in years, not until now. He leaned back in his chair, the hum of the EEG monitors in the next room filling the silence. Outside his glass-paneled office door, patients milled in the hallway, most in pajamas, some with electrode patches still stuck to their temples, waiting for results, wondering what their dreams meant. He envied their simplicity. Their fears were confined to nightmares. His had always been wide awake. The police had called it an abduction without trace. No ransom note, no signs of forced entry. Jamie's disappearance had made the local news but faded within weeks, replaced by newer tragedies. No arrests, no suspects, no answers. Just a boy who was there one night and gone the next. Ryan had spent years telling himself it wasn't his fault. He'd been 10, just a kid. No one could expect him to have done anything different. But still, the same question lived at the base of his spine. Why didn't I wake up? His phone buzzed. A text from Colleen, the clinic's administrative lead. Patient 204 asking if results are ready. Says he had the same dream again. Ryan blinked at the screen, distracted, thumb hovering over the reply. He typed, "On my way. Tell him we'll go over it together." Then he glanced back at the key. Whatever this was, whoever sent it, they wanted him to remember something, or confront something. Or maybe they knew. He slipped the key into a specimen envelope and slid it into his desk drawer, locking it. His hands trembled slightly as he rose from the chair, straightened his jacket, and stepped into the hallway. But his mind stayed behind, fixed on that letter. He never left the room. 2 hours later, he drove home in a daze, barely registering the late afternoon traffic. Spring had begun to green the edges of the city. Dogwoods blooming along medians, magnolias dusting sidewalks with petals. But Ryan barely noticed. His thoughts drifted, as they often did, to that summer of 1992. The smell of his old house, the sound of Jamie's feet slapping the hardwood as he ran down the hallway, the closet that never stayed closed, the wardrobe with the sticky latch. He pulled into the driveway of his modest townhouse, engine ticking as it cooled. As he stepped inside, his phone vibrated again. This time, a voicemail alert. Unknown caller. No transcription available. Ryan hesitated, then hit play. A woman's voice came through, older, quiet, cautious. "Dr. Carter, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Eleanor Finch. I used to live next door to you, back in Harrisonville. I think I saw something. The night your brother disappeared. But no one ever asked me. I was just a kid." A pause. "I've been having dreams lately. I think they're memories, or both." Another breath. Softer now. "Something's wrong in that house, Ryan. Something was always wrong. If you want to know what happened, come back before someone else disappears." The message ended. Ryan stared at his phone. He hadn't thought of Eleanor Finch in decades. The girl next door who used to steal his comics and climb the maple tree between their houses. She'd moved away a year after Jamie vanished. He never knew why. Now, after 33 years of silence, a letter, a key, and a voicemail. 3 pieces of a puzzle that refused to stay buried. Ryan stood at the kitchen counter for a long moment, the house quiet around him. He looked down at the brass key in his hand, turning it over slowly. Then, without hesitation, he picked up his phone and booked a rental car. He was going back to Harrisonville. The sign at the edge of town was new. Welcome to Harrisonville. Established 1884, a place to come home to. Ryan barely glanced at it as he passed. The road narrowed the farther he drove, old sycamores casting long shadows across the pavement. The town hadn't changed much. Same brick storefronts, same faded diner signs, same empty benches at the corner where the gas station used to be, a place caught somewhere between memory and erosion. He hadn't been back in almost 20 years, not since his father's funeral. Even then, he'd only stayed the afternoon. Now, with the old brass key in his glove box and Eleanor Finch's voice still echoing in his head, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that he was moving backward in time, driving not just toward a place, but toward a version of himself he'd tried to forget. The house on Ash Grove Lane stood just where it always had, tucked between two tall elms and half hidden by overgrown shrubs. The paint was peeling now. The gutters sagged. The roofline curled in one corner like a tired lip. But the shape of it, 2 stories, white siding, porch swing hanging by one rusted chain, was exactly as he remembered. He parked at the curb and just sat there, staring. The last time he'd seen this house from the outside, it was through the back window of his mother's car, his forehead pressed to the glass as they drove away. Now he approached it as a stranger. The porch groaned under his weight. The welcome mat was sun-bleached and cracked. He rang the bell. Nothing. He knocked. Still nothing. He tried the knob. The door opened. The air inside was stale, like books left too long in a sealed attic. Dust motes drifted in the light from the front windows. Furniture covered in white sheets loomed like forgotten ghosts. The living room still had the same layout. Fireplace in the corner, built-in bookshelf with a missing third shelf. The water ring stain on the coffee table where Jamie had spilled orange juice and cried about it for days. Ryan's throat tightened. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. There was no furniture in the hallway, no photographs on the walls, just blank plaster where his mother had once hung school portraits. A few rusty nails still stuck out like pins from an old wound. The stairs were steeper than he remembered. Or maybe he was just older now. Each step creaked beneath him, soft, familiar groans that sent shivers up his spine. When he reached the landing, he turned left without thinking. Jamie's room, their room, was still at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open and stopped. The room had been left as it was in 1992. 2 twin beds, 1 blue comforter, 1 red. The small desk in the corner. A corkboard with yellowing comic clippings and a faded drawing of a dinosaur labeled Jamiesaurus Rex. The wardrobe still stood at the foot of the far bed, its dark wood surface dulled with age, but unmistakable. Ryan stepped inside, suddenly lightheaded. This wasn't how he remembered it from the funeral or the years after. His mother had packed everything up at some point, hadn't she? The beds, the toys, even the desk. He was sure they were gone. So why was it all here now? He moved toward the wardrobe, each step muffled by the worn carpet. The key was in his hand before he realized he'd pulled it from his pocket. It fit. The lock clicked. He opened the doors. The scent hit him first. Musty, earthy, like the inside of an old trunk. The wardrobe was empty except for a few deep scratches in the back panel. Ryan ran his hand across the wood, frowning. The scratches didn't look accidental. They were clustered together, low, near where a child's hands might reach. Small crescents, fingernail marks. He leaned closer, then froze. One of the panels didn't quite sit flush. He tapped it. Hollow. His stomach turned. Ryan pressed both hands against the back panel and pushed. It gave slightly, then caught. He felt along the edge. There, Just beneath the top lip, a hidden release. He clicked it. The panel swung inward, revealing a narrow pitch-black crawl space. His breath caught. It wasn't deep. Maybe 4 feet across, a tiny room between the walls. He pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight. Inside was a nest of blankets. Old, mold-stained. There were drawings on the wall in crayon, stick figures, animals, and one shape that made his chest tighten. A pair of eyes, huge, black, watching. In the corner sat a small recorder, a toy, red and white, the kind Jamie used to carry everywhere. Ryan picked it up. The plastic was brittle, the battery hatch missing, but the tape was still inside. He slid it into his coat pocket and backed out slowly, heart pounding. As he turned to leave the room, his phone buzzed. A new voicemail. Unknown number. No transcription. He tapped play. The voice on the other end was a whisper. "You shouldn't have come back." Then silence. Ryan drove to the nearest motel just after sunset. He didn't bother unpacking, just tossed his bag onto the bed and paced the thin carpeted room like he was trying to outrun the memory of what he'd seen. The crawl space, the scratches, the recorder. Who left it there? Why would a child, his brother, hide behind a false panel in their own room? He ran a hand through his hair and sat on the edge of the bed, the old tape recorder cradled in his palm like a relic pulled from a grave. It looked just as he remembered. Red casing, yellow buttons, scuffed at the edges. A piece of masking tape still clung to the bottom, the handwriting barely visible in faded marker. Jamie, private. He turned the recorder over and pried open the cassette deck. The tape inside looked old, but intact. The spools wound tight. A faint label was still stuck to the front. Princess Room 1. The word sent a jolt through him. That phrase again. The same one from the letter. He never left the room. The same one Eleanor had whispered in her voicemail. Princess Room. He hadn't heard it since childhood. And even then, it wasn't something they had used. Not him, not Jamie, and definitely not their mother. It sounded made up, like a term for something that wasn't supposed to exist. Something hidden. Ryan connected the recorder to an old AUX cable and plugged it into the motel's television. The screen stayed black, but sound would come through the speakers. He hesitated. What was he hoping for? A clue? A confession? The sound of Jamie's voice. He pressed play. At first, static. A low hiss, followed by a muffled thump, like the recorder had been jostled and then set down. Then, a child's voice. Jamie. Testing. Hi, this is Jamie Carter. I'm 8, I think. Ryan's throat tightened. Dad said to start recording when I go into the princess room, but I don't like it in here. It's cold. A pause, shuffling. He says I have to be quiet when the music starts, that it means I'm being watched. Ryan's fingers curled into the mattress. Music? The tape crackled. Then, faintly, a tune. Soft and wrong. A lullaby, but slowed down. Off-key. Twinkling music box notes warped by time. Ryan recognized the melody. Brahms' lullaby, but slowed to a crawl, each note stretching like it didn't want to finish. It smells funny in here, like wet clothes and old crackers. I don't like it. I want to go home. There was a long pause. Then another voice. A man's voice. Calm, warm, familiar. You're home, Jamie. This is your special room. Only special boys get to be here. Ryan's heart dropped. It was his father. He paused the tape, hands shaking. His father. Not Charles Rhodes or some other name from a newspaper headline. His own father. The man who coached Little League, who packed their lunches, who sat beside them on the couch every Sunday watching westerns like the world was safe. Was that what this was? Not a kidnapping, not a stranger, but something worse? Ryan's mind reeled. He thought of the crawl space, the wardrobe, the narrow sealed space behind the wall, and the scratches. He had to know more. He pressed play again. "But Daddy," Jamie whispered, "Ryan's just in the next bed. Can I go get him?" "Number Ryan's sleeping. He wouldn't understand. You don't want to make him mad, do you?" Jamie's voice shrank. "No, sir. That's my good boy." Another long pause. Then a faint sound. Fabric rustling, breathing. A door creaking. Jamie's voice again. "It's dark now. The lights are off and I can't see. I think he's in here with me. Not Daddy, the other one." Ryan hit stop. Silence filled the motel room like a sudden drop in air pressure. The other one? Who was Jamie talking about? Ryan grabbed his phone and pulled up Eleanor Finch's number from the voicemail log. It rang twice before going to voicemail. He left a message. "Eleanor, it's Ryan. I got your message. I'm in town. I found something. I need to talk to you. Please, call me back." He hung up and sat still for a long time. Outside, the wind picked up. The motel sign flickered. Ryan rewound the tape. His hands moved automatically. He needed answers. But some part of him already knew. Whatever had happened in that room in 1992, whoever had taken Jamie, it hadn't been a stranger. It had come from inside the house. She called him just after midnight. Ryan was still awake, the motel room dim except for the static glow of the muted TV. He answered before the second ring. "Hello?" Eleanor Finch's voice was soft but steady. "You're really here?" "I am." "Where are you staying?" "Elmwood Inn, off County Road 6, just a few blocks from the house." A pause. "You shouldn't have gone in." Ryan sat forward. "You said you saw something the night Jamie disappeared." "Meet me tomorrow. Corner of Ridgeland and Warren, 11 a.m. There's an old walking trail. You'll see the gate." "Eleanor, wait, just tell me." "I need to show you, not tell you." Then the line went dead. By morning, the sky had turned the color of bone, flat, gray, and heavy. Ryan skipped breakfast, running instead on caffeine and adrenaline. He followed the map app until it lost signal, then drove by memory. The trail was where she said it would be, marked by a rusted iron gate and a weather-beaten county sign, Ridge Hollow Nature Path, established 1971. He parked and got out. Eleanor was already waiting, seated on a bench just inside the entrance. She stood as he approached. She looked older, of course, 40-something, sharp-featured, streaks of gray in her tied-back hair. But the eyes were the same. She smiled with hesitation. "Ryan Carter. Thought I'd never see you again. It's been a long time." They shook hands. Hers was warm, but trembled slightly. They walked without speaking for a few minutes, the path winding into the woods, leaves damp beneath their feet. "I didn't lie," she finally said. "I did see something, but I didn't understand what it was. Not back then." "What did you see?" "A light. From your bedroom. That night." "Jamie's window?" "No," she said. "Your closet." Ryan stopped. "That doesn't make sense. The closet didn't have a light." "I know." She looked at him. "But I saw it. I was up late. My parents were fighting. I was staring out my window, and I saw it. Your closet door opened. I remember thinking, that's weird. Why would they be playing at this hour? Then a shape moved across your room. Small, like a child crawling. Ryan's chest tightened. And then, the light disappeared. The closet door shut, and no one came back out. They sat on a fallen log. I told my mom the next day. She told me not to say anything, said you were going through enough. So you didn't." Eleanor's voice dropped. "I was 8, Ryan. I didn't know how to fight adults, but I never forgot. And then, 2 months ago, I started having dreams. About Jamie? About the house. About the room. Sometimes I'm in the closet. Sometimes I hear Jamie whispering to me from inside the walls. Sometimes he says your name." Ryan stared at her. "Why now?" "I don't know, but last week someone left a box on my porch. No note, no explanation. Inside was a tape." Ryan's blood went cold. "You have it with you?" She reached into her satchel and handed it to him. A worn cassette. No case, no label, just a strip of red tape wrapped around the side. He turned it over slowly. One word was written across the spine in small, careful block letters. "Watching." "I haven't played it," Eleanor said. "I don't have a cassette deck anymore, but I thought maybe you'd know what to do with it. I found one in the crawl space, behind the wardrobe, and a tape labeled Princess Room." Her eyes widened. "You went in the crawl space?" "Yes." "Did you see the drawings?" "The eyes," she nodded. "Always watching." "What does it mean?" "I think Jamie was trying to say something, to leave something behind, but no one was listening." Ryan looked at the tape again. "There's something else," he said. "On the one I found, he mentions the other one. Not Dad. Someone else. He said that to me, too. In the dreams. You think there was more than one person involved?" Eleanor was quiet for a long time. "I don't know," she said finally. "But I think someone's still watching that house." "Why?" "Because the light was on again last night. In the closet." Ryan stared at her. "That room hasn't had power in decades." Eleanor's voice dropped to a whisper. "Exactly." As they stood to leave, a dark-colored pickup truck passed slowly along the trail entrance road. Ryan turned his head to watch. The windows were tinted. The driver didn't stop, just lingered, long enough to be noticed. "You recognize that truck?" Ryan asked. Eleanor shook her head. "But it's the second time I've seen it this week." They walked back in silence. That night, Ryan returned to the motel and inserted the new tape into the recorder. He hit play. And this time, someone else's voice came through. Not Jamie, not his father, not anyone he recognized. A woman, whispering in a tone too calm. "He doesn't sleep like the others. He listens. We'll have to move him soon." Then static. Then the music. Slowed, distorted. That same off-key lullaby. But this time, beneath it, breathing, and somewhere, a low scraping sound. Like nails against wood. Like someone trying to get out. Ryan didn't sleep. He lay awake in the motel bed, the recorder still on the nightstand, the woman's voice looping in his mind. He doesn't sleep like the others. He listens. What others? And why had they needed to move him? The words sounded clinical, observational, not like someone hiding a crime, but like someone studying a subject. As if Jamie hadn't been kidnapped, but selected. The voice had no accent, no traceable emotion, just cold utility, like a nurse describing a sedated patient, like a handler. Ryan sat up, staring at the ceiling fan above. A memory stirred, small, quiet, unwanted. The night before Jamie disappeared. He'd heard something, not a sound, exactly, a feeling. The sense that someone was in the room. But when he turned his head, nothing. Just Jamie, snoring softly. He hadn't thought about it in years. Maybe he hadn't wanted to. Now, he couldn't shake it. By mid-morning, he was back at the house on Ash Grove Lane. He parked down the street this time, 2 blocks away, and approached on foot. The air was thick with humidity, the sky the color of wet cement. A few neighbors watched from behind curtains. This was a small town. People remembered. The front door creaked open under his hand. No police tape, no padlock, no sign anyone had come since his last visit. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. The house was too quiet. Even the floor seemed to hold its breath beneath him as he climbed the stairs. In their old bedroom, sunlight spilled across the floor. The wardrobe still stood open, the back panel ajar, the crawl space exposed. He crouched beside it and turned on his phone light again. Same nest of blankets, same old crayon drawings. But now, something looked different. The dust near the back corner had been disturbed. Ryan crawled in, slowly, carefully, and examined the floor. One of the floorboards was cracked, splintered at the edge like it had been pried up and reset. He tested it. It moved. He dug his fingers into the edge and pulled. The board lifted with a dry groan, revealing a shallow compartment underneath, maybe 10 inches deep. Inside lay a bundle of cloth, stained dark brown. Ryan's breath caught. He reached in and pulled it free. Wrapped inside were 5 Polaroids. He unfolded them slowly, and what he saw made his stomach lurch. Photo 1. Jamie sitting cross-legged on the floor, wearing the same pajamas he vanished in. He's holding the red recorder. His eyes are swollen. His smile is forced. Photo 2. A shadowy figure in the corner, face obscured, standing behind Jamie, hands on his shoulders, the wardrobe door slightly ajar in the background. Photo 3. A girl, young, maybe 6 or 7. Not Jamie, not anyone Ryan recognized. She's sitting on the same mattress that had been inside the crawl space, same blankets. She's crying. Photo 4. A long hallway, dimly lit, concrete walls. The camera pointed at a steel door with the words Session 5, Observation, stenciled across it. Photo 5. A piece of paper, handwritten, block letters, no punctuation. We sleep under them, they don't know the walls. Listen, the house isn't theirs, it's ours. Ryan staggered back from the crawl space, bile rising in his throat. This wasn't just about Jamie. There had been others. Children, watched, held, studied. Session 5. Observation. This wasn't an isolated crime. It was part of something structured, organized, deliberate. His phone buzzed, a new voicemail, unknown number. Ryan put it on speaker. You opened the floor. A pause. Now you've invited them back. Click. He sat there in the dusty bedroom, hands trembling, heart pounding. He looked around the room, at the walls, the ceiling, the baseboards. What if it had never been just the wardrobe? What if the house itself had been part of the trap? He picked up the recorder, grabbed the Polaroids, and stood. He needed answers, and there was only one place left to look. The basement. The stairs groaned beneath his weight as Ryan descended slowly into the dark. He hadn't been in the basement since 2005, his last brief visit to Harrisonville. Back then, it had seemed smaller. Now it felt like descending into the stomach of something that had once digested his life and quietly waited for more. The light switch clicked. Nothing. He clicked it again. Still dark. He fished his phone from his pocket and turned on the flashlight. The narrow beam revealed cobwebs dangling from exposed rafters. The concrete floor cracked in places like dry skin. Old paint cans. Tools still hung neatly along one pegboard wall, rust creeping across their edges. But what drew his eye wasn't the workbench or the freezer or the water heater humming faintly in the corner. It was the door. Not the one leading to the backyard. The other door. The one that had always been locked. The one their father claimed was for storage. The one he said had a broken lock, or bad wiring, or that nothing's in there but old junk, boys. Now Ryan stood before it. The knob gleamed faintly in the flashlight beam. Scratches ringed the keyhole, old ones as though someone had tried to pick it. He reached into his pocket. The brass key. It had opened the wardrobe. Would it open this too? He slid it in. It turned. Click. The door creaked open. The air that spilled out was thick and sour, like wet carpet and something beneath it that should have never decayed indoors. Ryan gagged slightly and raised his shirt to his nose. Inside, the room was windowless, narrow, 12 feet long, 7 wide. The walls were lined in dark foam insulation, soundproofing. One bare bulb dangled from a cord in the center, unlit. Ryan stepped inside. The door creaked closed behind him. The beam from his phone swept the space. Against one wall stood a small child's bed. Plastic, pink, Disney princess decals peeling at the corners. On the opposite wall, a camera tripod. The mount sat empty. A thin red wire trailed from the corner up into the ceiling and disappeared. Beside the bed, a series of hooks were bolted into the concrete wall. Empty restraints hung from them, soft, worn, but unmistakably designed for wrists or ankles. Ryan's stomach churned. In the corner sat a wooden desk, child-sized. On it, stacked neatly, were 6 notebooks, each labeled in the same stiff block print. Princess Room, Session 1, Session 2, Session 3, through Session 6. He opened the first one. Inside, neat pencil handwriting filled the pages. Not Jamie's, clinical notes, observations, like a case study. Subject reluctant, requires reinforcement cues, introduced nightly protocol, music, blindfold, touch association, response improving, eye contact increased by 12%. Ryan flipped ahead. Subject compliant, no longer asks for mother, claims Ryan is imaginary, regression markers encouraging. His hands began to shake. Another page. Subject speaks of voices in walls. Self-soothing behavior increasing. Significant resistance to interruption. Monitor night episodes closely. Possible auditory hallucinations. And finally, introduce Session 7 with new subject. Facility prepared. Relocation viable. Ryan stepped back, knees nearly buckling. This wasn't just about a child kept captive. It was an experiment. He turned toward the back wall. His light caught on something, a seam in the foam. He reached for it, pulled. The panel gave way. Behind it, another door. Smaller, metal, a nameplate bolted into it. Observation Room, Unit 4. Be property of Project Promise. His blood ran cold. Project Promise. The phrase from Jamie's tape. The phrase Eleanor had mentioned in a whisper. A program. A facility. A network. He tried the latch. Locked. He stepped back, chest rising and falling like he'd run a mile. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. Another unknown number. Another voicemail. He pressed play. A man's voice this time. Calm. Measured. You weren't supposed to remember, but you always had trouble sleeping, didn't you, Ryan? That's why you stayed upstairs. That's why he didn't take you too. But now that you're awake... A pause. We'll be coming back. Click. Ryan stared at the door in front of him. His brother wasn't the only child taken. He wasn't even the first. And whatever Project Promise had started all those years ago, it wasn't over. Not yet. The police station in Harrisonville hadn't changed in 30 years. Same yellowing linoleum floors. Same crack in the front counter glass. Same clock above the booking window that always ran 10 minutes slow. Detective Abby Morales met Ryan in the waiting room after he'd waited nearly 2 hours just to file a report. She looked tired. Mid-40s, sharp posture, dark blazer over denim. The kind of woman who knew when someone was lying before they opened their mouth. So, she said, flipping open her notepad, you're telling me you broke into your family's old house, discovered a hidden crawl space, found cassette tapes, photographs of children, and a door marked with something called Project Promise. Ryan nodded, voice hoarse from lack of sleep. That's exactly what I'm saying. Mr. Carter, you're a sleep specialist, correct? Are you currently taking any medication? I know how it sounds. I have evidence. He pulled the tapes from his coat pocket. I have photos, I have audio recordings, and I'm not the only one. Eleanor Finch saw the light too. Finch? Morales scribbled something down. Lives out on Redfern Drive? Yes, she was a witness, back then, and now. Morales sighed. We'll look into it. That's not good enough, Ryan snapped. There's a door in that basement, a second one, with a serial plate, a program name. It wasn't just my brother. They were documenting this, studying it. She held up a hand. Look, I'll send a unit out there this evening. But you need to understand something, Mr. Carter. That house has been empty for over a decade. If someone else was using it, it's not your father anymore." Ryan flinched. "He died in 2009. Stroke. And your mother?" "California. We haven't spoken in years." Morales nodded. "Okay. I'll need the keys, the photos, everything. You'll make a full statement tonight." Ryan hesitated, then handed her the envelope. As she stood to leave, she added, "One last thing. Project Promise. Ever heard of a name associated with it? Like a Dr. Stratton? Number Y?" She leaned closer. "Because we pulled a case file last year, long sealed, about a missing foster child from the 80s, another boy. Disappeared from a group home near Bloomington. Left behind a tape. Same audio cue, same phrase. Princess room." Morales nodded slowly. "And on the tape, a voice. 'Yours, Mr. Carter.'" Ryan froze. "What?" "That's what makes this complicated. Either it was a mistake, or you were there too." Back at the motel, Ryan stood beneath the shower until the water ran cold. He dressed in silence, then sat at the edge of the bed, replaying Morales's final words in his head. "Your voice is on the tape." He didn't remember being recorded, didn't remember other children. But then again, there were entire gaps in his memory from that year, pieces missing, blank days, dreams that felt like someone else's life. He opened the final notebook, Session 6. The handwriting inside was different, sloppier, more erratic, but it wasn't the text that stopped him. It was the list on the first page. Subject 1, Evan D., recovered deceased. Subject 2, M. Holloway, resisted, transferred. Subject 3, Redbird, no known ID. Subject 4, J. Carter, observation terminated. Subject 5, R. Carter, elevated neural response, withdrawn from cohort. Subject 6, L. Torres, compliant, relocated for long-term testing. Ryan's eyes locked onto the fifth name, R. Carter, his own. And next to it, withdrawn. Not removed, not forgotten, withdrawn. As if he'd once been in, part of it. His thoughts fractured. Bits of memory trickled through the cracks. A hallway with no windows. A girl whispering to him behind a wall. A drawing he made of a staircase that didn't exist. Waking up with marks on his arms and no explanation. The door in the basement. He hadn't just opened it for Jamie. He'd opened it for himself. The motel phone rang. He jumped. Landlines never rang anymore. He lifted the receiver with shaking fingers. "Mr. Carter?" It was Morales. "We found something." "Where?" "Behind the second door. Basement Unit 4B. You were right. It was sealed tight. We had to breach it. And," her voice lowered, "you're going to want to come in immediately." "What did you find?" A pause, then, a surgical table, a wall covered in photographs, and a second wardrobe. A wardrobe? Built into the wall, lined with foam. We found a child's shoe inside. Ryan's breath caught. "Was it Jamie's?" "No," she said. "Different size, different style, newer. We're still processing it." "That means," "Yes," she said. "Someone was using the house recently." Ryan hung up slowly. The fourth subject had never left the room, but now, it seemed, there might be a seventh. And they weren't finished yet. The lock was heavy. Ryan gripped the handle to Unit 4B and twisted. But it wouldn't budge. Eleanor shone her flashlight along the frame, then pointed. "There, 2 bolts. One up top, one near the floor." He knelt, breath fogging in the cold basement air. The lower bolt was rusted but loose. With a grunt, he forced it free. Eleanor handled the upper one. The metal door groaned open. Beyond it, a narrow staircase descending into complete darkness. Ryan looked at her. "You don't have to come." Eleanor shook her head. "I think I do." They stepped inside. The air shifted immediately, cooler, deader, like the place had been sealed for decades. Dust hung thick in the beam of their flashlights. The stairs led down 20 feet, maybe more. The walls were concrete now, not the brick of the basement above. This wasn't a part of the original house. This was something built underneath it, by design. At the bottom, a reinforced steel door stood ajar. Ryan pushed it open slowly, and what they saw stopped them cold. A corridor stretched ahead, underground, windowless, lined with white-tiled walls stained yellow with age. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, powered by a backup generator somewhere far away. Along the left wall were 6 numbered doors. Each one had a small window, a keypad, and a camera mount above it. Each bore a label: Unit 4B, Session Room 1, Session Room 2, Session Room 6. And across from them, mounted to the wall, a faded sign with peeling letters: Project Promise. Observational Wing, Cognitive Conditioning and Family Integration, where good children learn to be better. Eleanor whispered, voice shaking. What the hell is this place? Ryan moved to the first door. The glass was fogged from inside. He wiped it. Inside, the room was perfectly preserved. A small bed, plastic toys, a white noise machine in the corner still faintly humming. On the walls were childish drawings, houses, animals, people with no faces. A camera was mounted in the far corner. The lens pointed at the bed. He moved to room 2, then room 3. Each was a copy of the last. Until room 4. That door was slightly open. He stepped inside. The air was colder here, wetter. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. This room was different. Scrawled across the back wall in red marker, childlike, erratic, were the words, "We never went home." The mattress was torn, the toy chest overturned, and in the corner sat a skeleton, small, curled, wearing a tattered princess nightgown. Eleanor gasped, covering her mouth. Ryan sank to his knees. Jamie? Number 2 small. Not his brother. A different child. A forgotten one. Eleanor picked up a notebook from the desk. They documented everything. She read aloud. Subject refused compliance. Regressed to nonverbal state. Terminated study due to risk of contamination. Control resumed in session room 5. Ryan felt his stomach drop. They let her die. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Number. They made her disappear. They backed out of the room and turned toward the far end of the corridor. A heavy security door blocked the way. A red light blinked above the handle. To the left, a dusty control panel with 6 VHS decks stacked beneath. A monitor above them. Ryan hit the power button. The screen flickered to life. Static, then flickering footage from an overhead camera. It showed Session Room 6, live. A girl sat cross-legged on the floor, no older than 10. Blonde, dazed, rocking slightly. She looked directly into the camera, then said, "I know you're there, Ryan." Ryan froze. The girl on the monitor wasn't crying, wasn't screaming. She was staring directly at the camera, directly at him. "Did she just say your name?" Eleanor whispered. Ryan nodded slowly, stepping closer to the screen. The girl looked about 9 or 10, pale, hollow-eyed. She wore a pink sweatshirt, sleeves pulled over her hands. A single braid fell over her shoulder. On her left wrist, barely visible under the cuff, was a medical band. He leaned closer. "R. Carter, Session 6, Unit 4. "B. No," Ryan murmured. "That's not possible. It says your name." "No, she says my name. The bracelet says—" He trailed off. Because something in her face, not the expression, not the clothes, but something beneath it felt familiar. He knew that face, not from memory, from the mirror. He staggered back. "Eleanor, I think that's me." "What?" "I think that's me. As a child, Ryan, this is live." He looked again. The girl's lips were moving, but there was no sound. "It's not me now, but it was me. This happened before. They filmed this. They're playing it back to us." He turned to the monitor controls. Below the screen was a date stamp. Live feed. Session 6. June 17th, 1992. It's archived, it's looping. Eleanor exhaled sharply. We're watching what they made you forget. Ryan pressed play on one of the VHS decks below the monitor. The screen flickered again. Now a different room, a different child, bound to the bed. A shadow moved in the background, tall, slow, methodical. A man's voice murmured instructions. Ask her what she dreams about. Another voice answered, female, calm, detached. She says the boy watches her from the walls, says his name is Ryan. Eleanor covered her mouth. How did they know your name? Because I was here. But how did you forget this? Ryan shook his head. I don't know. Sedatives, sleep cycles, conditioning? I work with sleep disorders every day and I still... He stopped. Something clicked. That's why I never woke up. Eleanor turned to him. What do you mean? The night Jamie vanished. I didn't sleep through it. I was taken too. I was sedated. Or programmed to forget. They used me. And then they returned me. He pulled out the Session 6 notebook again and flipped to the page marked with his name. R. Carter. Elevated neural response. Withdrawn from cohort. Placed in observation tier. They took me out of the program because I wasn't compliant. But Jamie... He couldn't finish the sentence. A loud click echoed behind them. They spun toward the corridor. The security door at the far end had unlocked. Its red light went green. Eleanor reached for his arm. Someone else is here, or something's been watching us. Ryan stepped through the open door first. The hallway beyond was sterile, tiled in pale gray, leading into a large square room, the control chamber. Dozens of screens lined the walls, some dark, others flickering with images of children, of experiments, of old VHS grain frozen in time. At the center of the room stood a glass case. Inside, surrounded by foam padding, sat the original Princess Room tape, Volume 0. He opened the case. On the back of the label was a handwritten phrase, the first test, the last survivor. Suddenly, the overhead lights snapped on, and a voice crackled through the hidden speakers. Familiar, male, measured. Ryan, you were never supposed to remember, but you always resisted the programming. That's what made you different. That's why you weren't chosen. Who are you? Ryan shouted. Where's Jamie? The voice continued, ignoring the question. You passed through the system, but your brother, he stayed, he learned, and now he's helping. Ryan's blood ran cold. What do you mean? He's helping. There was no abduction. Jamie was transferred. Session 5 was his start, but Session 7, he's the facilitator now. The line went dead. Ryan's legs nearly gave out. Jamie, alive, but no longer a victim. Eleanor stared at him, pale as ash. Ryan, look. She pointed at the far wall, where a monitor now showed a live camera feed. It was the crawl space behind the wardrobe, and someone was crawling out of it. Not a child, not a stranger, but a man, late 30s, familiar eyes. Jamie, alive, watching and smiling. He was older now, but Ryan knew that face. The man crawling from the hidden crawl space in the live monitor feed had the same sharp chin, the same thin frame, the same cautious eyes that used to peek over comic books late at night. Jamie, his little brother. Except now he wasn't little, and he wasn't hiding. He was emerging. He's alive, Ryan whispered. I was right. All these years. But why didn't he come back? Eleanor asked. The screen showed Jamie dusting off his jeans, standing in the bedroom, their bedroom, just like it was in 1992. His expression wasn't frightened. He looked calm, prepared. And then... He walked directly toward the wardrobe mirror and stared into the camera behind it, as if he knew exactly where it was. He's looking at us, Eleanor murmured. Right at us. Jamie reached into his coat pocket, pulled something out, held it to the mirror. A key, not brass, Steel, cold, modern. Ryan's phone vibrated in his pocket. Unknown number. Voicemail. He didn't need to press play. The control room speakers came to life instead. Someone had rerouted the message. It was Jamie. His voice, older now, calm, soft-spoken, like their fathers used to be. Ryan, you were supposed to forget. You were supposed to live your life. But you kept digging. A pause. I forgive you for that. Another pause. But you left me. Ryan's knees buckled. He sat on the edge of the control room console, staring up at the screen. I didn't know, he said aloud. I thought you were dead. They told me you were gone. Eleanor placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. He doesn't sound angry, she said. He sounds convinced. The monitor view changed. Jamie was now descending the stairs into the basement. Slowly, carefully. He stopped at the steel door to Unit 4B. The camera feed above the door blinked green. He had access. The lock disengaged. He's coming here, Eleanor said. He knows we're in the control room. Ryan didn't move. His mind was spinning, thoughts colliding. Jamie wasn't abducted. He was conditioned. He hadn't escaped the program. He had embraced it. The brother Ryan mourned had become part of what destroyed them. Eleanor pulled him to his feet. Ryan, we have to decide what to do, now. We can't run, he said quietly. He'll find us. Then what? He looked at the screen again. Jamie had paused at the end of the corridor. He was facing another camera now, one pointed at Session Room 5. The door slowly opened. Inside, a child waited. A girl, maybe 7, pale, barefoot. She looked up at Jamie and smiled. Is it time for the game? She asked. Jamie nodded. Yes, Princess Room, remember? Ryan's heart dropped. It's still happening, he whispered. It never stopped. Eleanor grabbed his wrist. Then we stop it. They scrambled through the corridor, Eleanor carrying the original Volume 0 tape under one arm. Ryan held a crowbar he'd found by the generator, useless as a weapon, but heavy enough to smash a lock. As they passed each room, the monitors blinked on again, child after child, frozen in time, archived, recorded, forgotten. They reached Room 5. Ryan pushed the door open. It was empty. The girl and Jamie were gone. A sound echoed down the corridor, a door creaking open, footsteps, not hurried, measured. Ryan and Eleanor turned. Jamie stood at the far end, holding the girl's hand. He looked at his brother, then tilted his head like a curious animal. Why did you come back? He asked. Ryan stepped forward. To find you. Jamie's eyes narrowed. You shouldn't have. This isn't a program, Jamie. It's a prison. Jamie smiled. Number, it's a sanctuary for children like us. He looked down at the girl. Tell him. The girl spoke in a soft voice. Here, we don't get hurt. We don't get forgotten. The Princess Room is safe. Ryan's throat tightened. Jamie, they took you. They changed you. No, Ryan. They gave me purpose. They made me feel special. For the first time in my life. You were a child. You were manipulated. So were you, Jamie replied. But they couldn't fix you. You were too awake. Eleanor stepped forward, holding the tape. We found the original, Volume 0. We know how it started. Jamie's gaze shifted. That tape is not yours. It's evidence, she said. Jamie sighed. He let go of the girl's hand and stepped closer. You don't understand. This place, it's not just a basement. It's one of many. They built these rooms across the country. The experiments never ended. Then help us stop them, Ryan said. Come with us. We'll bring the truth to light. Jamie's eyes turned glassy. His voice cracked. Truth doesn't matter. Belief does. He raised something from his belt. A remote. One red button. This whole unit is wired for thermal sterilization in case of breach. Ryan froze. Jamie, please. You left me. I didn't know. Jamie's hand trembled on the trigger. Then, the girl beside him whispered, "I don't want to play anymore." Jamie looked down at her. Something flickered behind his eyes. Regret? Doubt? He lowered the remote. That was enough. Eleanor lunged forward and struck it from his hand. It clattered down the corridor. Jamie didn't fight back. He fell to his knees. Ryan knelt beside him. "We're going to get you help," Jamie whispered. "It's too late." Number not this time. The silence after Jamie fell to his knees was suffocating. The little girl beside him had backed away, arms crossed tightly over her chest, eyes darting between the brothers. "Is it over?" she whispered. Ryan looked to Eleanor, who gently stepped forward and knelt beside her. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Layla." "Layla, I need you to stay with me, okay?" Layla nodded. She was shaking, but not crying. It was like she'd learned long ago that crying didn't change anything. Ryan turned to Jamie, who now sat with his back against the wall, eyes fixed on the far end of the corridor. "There are more rooms, aren't there?" Ryan asked quietly. Jamie nodded slowly. "4 more facilities, that I know of. Same layout, same rooms, different states. They rotate subjects based on compliance and resistance levels." "And Project Promise?" Jamie's voice was a whisper. "Not a government program." "Not exactly. Started with federal funding, then went private. They called it post-trauma learning environments, adaptive behavioral testing. But it was always about obedience, about breaking children early enough to rebuild them." "And the princess room?" Jamie looked up at his brother. "That was mine. They made it for me. Said I needed my own protocol, my own name for it. Because you were different. Because I could disappear in plain sight. I could blend, learn faster, mirror behavior." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something wrapped in tissue. Ryan took it, unfolded it. Inside was a second cassette tape, labeled in red ink, "Exit Protocol, 7B." "What is this?" Ryan asked. Jamie's voice faltered. "It's how they end a session. Shut it down, erase the evidence, wipe the subject." Eleanor stepped forward. "And this? It's for her?" Jamie nodded, glancing at Layla. "If she stayed, they'd use it on her. They start with white noise and hypnosis tones. Then come the visuals. Then, it's like you were never there." Ryan held the tape in his hand, staring down at the label. "How do we stop it?" Jamie's gaze locked on his. "You don't use the protocol." "What do you mean?" "You do the opposite. You bring it into the light, play it, expose it." They moved fast after that. Ryan grabbed the tapes, both the original Volume 0 and Exit Protocol 7B. Eleanor wrapped Layla in a blanket they'd found in the observation room. Jamie stayed behind. His decision. "I can't go back up there," he said. "Not after what I've done. But you can." Ryan crouched beside him one last time. "You were a child. They made you this." Jamie looked away. "Doesn't change what I became." Ryan wanted to argue, but didn't. Sometimes silence is mercy. As they reached the main floor, Ryan realized how warped time had become. He could still smell the rain outside. It was still that day. The world hadn't stopped. He called Morales from the car, told her everything. She didn't ask questions this time. Just said, "Bring the tapes. Bring the girl. I'll meet you at the regional field office. We'll take it from there." That night, Ryan didn't sleep. He sat in a sterile interview room while Layla was examined by Child Protection Services. Eleanor gave her full statement in the room next door. Ryan just sat and watched the tapes. Volume 0. Exit Protocol. Session after session of children conditioned through fear, trained to obey through simulated affection, reward cycles, deprivation. It was so methodical, so clean. One tape ended with the words, "We don't take them. We build them. One room at a time." Hours later, Morales returned. "We found 2 of the other facilities, raided, cleaned out weeks ago. Whatever network this was, Someone knew we were closing in. And Jamie? She hesitated. He's still in the basement. He wouldn't come out. Will you go get him? We'll try. She placed a small envelope in front of him. Inside, the Polaroid of Jamie from 1992. Still in the pajamas he vanished in. You were right all along, Morales said. But I was too late, Ryan whispered. But maybe not for Layla. 6 weeks later, Ryan stood alone on the edge of the woods behind Ash Grove Lane. The house was gone, demolished by state order after the raid, declared structurally unsafe. The official report called it a hazardous legacy structure. But Ryan knew the truth. It hadn't just been a house, it had been a facility, a laboratory, a cage built from wallpaper and bedtime stories. And it had watched them. All of them. He stepped over the caution tape, boots crunching through the broken remains of the foundation. The space where the basement had been was now just a sunken square of gravel and burnt concrete. But he still knew where every door had been, every room, every corridor. In his hand, he held the final tape. Volume 0. The original session, the first test, the beginning. He didn't need to watch it again, he just needed to bury it. He crouched at the edge of what used to be the basement stairs, dug a small hole, and placed the tape inside. Then, without a word, he covered it back over with earth. Behind him, a voice spoke softly. You came back. It was Eleanor. She walked beside him, hands in her coat pockets, hair tied back from the wind. Couldn't stay away, Ryan said. Not until it's done. It may never be done, he nodded. But at least it's not hidden anymore. They stood in silence for a while, watching the wind scatter bits of insulation and memory across the empty lot. Then Eleanor said, I saw Layla last week. She's with a foster family now, outside of St. Louis. Quiet place. They have a dog. Is she okay? She doesn't sleep much. But she talks, she draws a lot, mostly windows and stars. Ryan smiled faintly. Jamie used to draw that too. They started walking back toward the car, gravel shifting underfoot. Do you think he's still down there? Eleanor asked. Jamie? Somewhere, underground, in one of the other sites. Ryan didn't answer right away. If he is, he knows I'm looking. You're not afraid he'll come back? He already has. Ryan paused, then reached into his coat and pulled out a small recorder, Jamie's old one, the red one. He pressed play. Static hissed, then a whisper. Ryan, they're building another one, but it's not under a house this time. It's under a school. Don't forget what we were. Don't forget where it started. Ryan clicked it off. It's not over, he said. No, Eleanor agreed. But now we know where to look. They got into the car. As Ryan started the engine, he looked one last time at the lot where their childhood home used to stand, where one child had vanished, where another had watched, where a program had tried to rewrite the definition of love, loyalty, and obedience, using walls and soundproof doors instead of chains. But it failed, because someone remembered. Someone came back, and now, someone's watching them.